by choice did not invite X amount of individuals here because of the situation with COVID. So therefore, we are going by COVID guidelines. We have individuals spaced out. I see Mr. Steve Jones, the mayor's appointee, is going to give us a welcome and introduce the Mayor of Mclennan. Mr. Steve Jones, would you come up, please? The microphone and everything is right here.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it there, Brother Jones, and thank you, Dr. King, and all of the fine staff with Arkansas Land and Community Development Corporation for all that you do throughout the 42 counties that you serve. The assistance that you brought to communities around the region has been very impactful. And I've been a huge fan of what you do from my time serving in the House of Representatives to my time on Delta Regional Authority Board. Huge fan of what you all have been doing to help communities out. And we're proud to partner with you from the city of West Memphis for what you're doing here with this symposium. I think that the more access that you can give to individuals, the better, so that they can live richer lives and do more to help move their communities forward. And so with that, I just want to, again, welcome you all here to our city, sitting beside the river. This is the Delta. And the work that you all do, I know, reaches across the Delta. And West Memphis is a hub for economic development here in the region. We work collectively with all the cities around here to try to speak with one voice for this region. I believe there's strength in numbers. So with that, it is my high honor to bring to you all this time the mayor of the great city of West Memphis. He is completing actually almost 3 years into his first term. And during that time, he has brought almost $1 billion of investment to the city of West Memphis. Think about the public and the private investments that have come that are going to reap benefits for decades to come. Mayor Mclennan has been at the helm of that leadership that has really made an impact on this city. With that, I'm going to just ask him to come on up. I know he's got to bounce out real quickly. He's got a city council member meeting starting in just a few minutes, but he felt it was real important to come here to welcome you all to this great symposium. Mayor Marco Mclennan.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. First of all, let me say thank you all and welcome to the great city of West Memphis. I'm so honored to have you here in attendance, to be a part of such a great occasion. Once again, Dr. King, I also wanted to say thank you and your entire staff for the work that you are doing throughout the 42 counties, the Arkansas Land, Community, Economic Development. It's so important for us as a city as we try to continue to improve quality of life. Right here in the city of West Memphis, we have many areas that have been overlooked, houses that have been abandoned, empty lots that needed care. And what we're doing, we have taken an opportunity in West Memphis to start some of a sort of a land bank and try to make these properties available for families and individuals to come apart and own these properties and build new structures here in the city as well. So we look forward to doing a lot of those things. My chief of staff, Steve Jones, kind of sort of spoke on some of the economic development accomplishments that we have had. And without the help of the people that work with me, we wouldn't be doing these things, but he's exactly right. Almost $1 billion of capital investment and capital improvement here in the city of West Memphis. Over 2,000 jobs has been created. And with those 2,000 jobs that have been created, along with good paying jobs, allowing individuals the opportunity to be able to buy some of these properties and hopefully buy homes here in the city of West Memphis. We look forward to that. When you think about the quality of life, that's always the most important part of your city. You want to be able to improve quality of life because in West Memphis, we have all the aspects. We are the only city in the state of Arkansas that has America's main streets, which is I-40 and I-55. Over 65,000 vehicles come through our city on a daily basis. If you don't believe me, crack the bridge and stand on Broadway and you'll see all 65,000. But not only that, we have had all of our schools have been newly renovated or newly rebuilt. So our education system is strong. Like I said, we just had a new Baptist hospital that just opened during the first year of my term. We got great healthcare along with East Arkansas County Health Center. One done an amazing job of making sure that our people were safe here in the city of West Memphis. We all know that we have been affected by this big beast called COVID. It have affected us in so many different ways. I had a son that got caught it, wasn't really sick. I had a cousin that caught it and died from it. So it has definitely affected us, but not just our economic structure of just some form of normalcy that we have in the city, not being able to do the things that necessarily that we used to do. We had to do the things that were so extreme where I had to tell the people to stay at home. Many people saw that and it went viral. Well, it came from a place of love, but it came from a place of strength because I understood how important it was so that we get back to some form of normalcy so we continue moving our city forward without Winter Street. We have a $9,050,000 project, a $9,050,000 project that's going on with our community park, addressing High Tower Park in the middle of 14th Street and Broadway, Franklin Park on 25th Street, Tilden Rogers Park on Airport Boulevard, and Worthington Park right here on Missouri, because our parks are essential to helping our community. Our parks affect the people of our community because they allow people in our community to be able to enjoy the amenities that we have right here in the city. So that is so definitely important. And like I said, when you got jobs, when you got a hospital, you got a quality health care facility, you got great education, you got parks that you can enjoy. Our crime is the lowest it has been in some time in modern history. Our crime has continued to be reduced. So our city is a city that's on the right level and moving in the right direction. Right now, the thing that have hurt us the most here in West Memphis is not having rooftops. That is important for a city to be able to have an area where people can go in and build homes that they can be proud of and call their city home. Not how these areas have been really affecting our city because with all 2,000 of these new jobs that have been created, guess what? These people come here and earn our money and then leave right after the city and take that money elsewhere. I want West Memphis to be a place where you live, work, and you play. And Dr. Ken, I think what you are doing, you are setting up a situation to help us with this partnership that we'll be able to capitalize on the land that we have here in Ayers. I think that you can give us some direction or help individuals that want to help to try to build homes. So if your program doing the same thing, people need places to live. And when people are buying homes, they really take just a little more, I would say, just take a little more stake in owning their property. Because that's something that they're needed. You know, right here in West Memphis, we have 55% of our homes are rented, 45% of our homes are owned. I would like to flip that around to 55% being owned and 45% being rented. But with all the new economic development coming in, it doesn't matter to me as long as you live in West Memphis and you're working in West Memphis. Because you're working in West Memphis and you spend money in West Memphis, you contribute in West Memphis, but you're also getting able to enjoy the quality of life that we are doing. I continue to help trying to move that needle forward. I just want to thank Dr. King and his staff for coming here to the Arkansas Land Community Economic Development for the avenues that they are going to expose to us today and get to my office. I hate that I can't say the whole meeting because I got that council meeting coming up. I look forward to partnership and to making this relationship a strong relationship so that we definitely can capitalize because they have the expertise of making our city better. So Dr. King, thank you for your time. Thank you for giving me this time. And we're going to continue to have our door wide open and do anything that we can to be an assistance to you all because you all are definitely going to be a blessing to West Memphis. Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank Mayor Mclennan and Brother Steve Jones. And he also has the Director of Communications out there, Nick Coulter, is with him also. Thank you, gentlemen, for welcoming us to your city. That $1 billion investment, that's something Dr. King will have some words to say probably about. But does everyone have a agenda? If we have a virtual audience and we have a few people, and we chose to have a few people here because of the COVID protocol. One of the things that in doing this hybrid meeting, we wanted to be on the ground literally here and get some of the feeling and just feeling the environment and having the opportunity to have the mayor come and give us some words on what they're doing. Just like to remind the presenters when they come up, the microphone is in the camera here. We do not have an additional PA system. One of the things when we were setting up, we're in West Memphis Public Library, which is one of the state-of-the-art libraries in the state of Arkansas. It's probably the most newest, most recent library in the state. It was opened in January. I believe they began operational in February, and it's state of the art. And one of the things the librarian told me when I was doing some of the logistics, she said the room has been set up for acoustics. So therefore you don't need a microphone. And as I stated, when we were setting up, one of the individuals came and closed the door. As I was talking with my colleague, Michael Tucker, I guess my voice travels. With that being said, does everyone check the chat room? There is a schedule or an agenda for today's event. There's one addition. Ms. LaTanya Chanel of the Small Business Administration in Tennessee. She's located in Tennessee. She's a district manager in Tennessee, but she covers the Memphis area, and Memphis and West Memphis sort of go together. Some of the same programs, that's a national organization. So some of the same programs coincide on this side of the bridge. With this being said, the facilitator for this afternoon's program is one of the founders and my boss, and who has been with the organization for the last 42 years, Dr. Calvin King Sr.
Good afternoon to everyone. Let me again express my appreciation to the mayor, Mr. Steve Jones, for you all being here and being a part of this agenda. You know, your discussions, Mayor, as we talked about the major investment that you're making in parks and as that relates to tourism. You know, part of this particular event itself and what we'll be talking about, and not just to be broadcast today. You know, this goes online on our Facebook, so people go on and continue to look at it on an ongoing basis, both those presenters and the information, and all that was said about Crittenden County and again, the city of West Memphis. You know, tourism, parks and tourism investment, what you make, one of the organizations itself, the institution, we said one USDA, Natural Resources Conservation Service, and one USDA is a major resource. And when you start to talk about conservation practices, you start to talk about park and tourism and a lot of other things that they're involved in as a part of USDA, Natural Resource Conservation Services. And that's one of the organizations or one part of USDA that will be presented today. That's going to be under workshop 1. County District Conservation is going to be presenting as it relates to USDA. We talk about the partnership, and then workshop 2, we will be dealing with farm financing, and all of this is really connected together. We'll be talking about farm finance opportunities in micro-urban farming. You talked about vacant property, land that exists in the area. We've had some brief conversation as it relates to micro-urban farming, as it relates to cities, small towns, and what that represents, and how now there probably is a need to relook, re-examine, where these properties are and what those properties represent in a more diverse fashion, both in housing and how in certain cases, it may not be a matter of you're looking at the 2 lots and where these 2 lots are just for housing, but it may be that these 2 lots may be more suitable in a situation that it becomes a micro-urban farm, and it offers some diversity, both from a home ownership perspective and then from a farm ownership perspective as well. So some things have to be looked at a little different. I want to mention as well is that USDA Natural Resource Conservation Services this week, day before yesterday, the State Technical Committee, they established a micro-urban farm technical committee. for the first time. That was established at the state level, meaning basically there will be a lot of priority being put on urban agriculture and opportunities that exist for urban agriculture, micro-urban farm initiatives as new beginning farmers. Also, what that relates to as we talk more about the economic development aspect of that, those micro-urban farm opportunities and local food supply. The state of Arkansas, Department of Agriculture, they have a specific program. And Mr. Jones, we'll talk more about this in the future, but how this program works with ag marketing services and where they are promoting more, even by way of some grant programs to create this capacity of local food supply with the local school district. Again, local economic development type of initiative and dealing with both employment from one perspective, and again, economic impact based on the market opportunities, local market opportunities that exist. All of this is interconnected back with one USDA, Natural Resource Conservation Services, Farm Service Agency being the other. And again, each presenter will talk more in detail from workshop 1 and workshop 2 with Farm Service Agency, but just ultimately in summary, conservation programs, as an example, when you talk about conservation programs, EQIP being one of the programs that is employed or the people have an opportunity to access. Mayor talked about resources and what those resources mean as far as economic development is concerned. And we're talking about ag economic development. We're talking about ag value type of processing opportunities. We're talking about local market supply initiative. We're talking about job creation as well from the one USDA perspective. Now, to that extent, as we move forward, I'm hopeful that we will be able to come back in and meet with those that will have a specific interest. Or maybe that is just simply a hotline with the mayor's office. This hotline or this line is established for all individuals in the future. And from this point moving forward, any individual that has an interest in urban agriculture or becoming an urban farmer, that they call the number, that you call the mayor's office and say, well, I have this becoming a micro-urban farm, either I have access to some land, or I would like to look at how we could possibly get access to some land and receive the other type of technical assistance that's necessary to create this farming operation. But that can happen. And then how do you build the overall capacity of that particular operation of the micro-urban farm? That can happen as well. Conservation practices are very important for that. Irrigation practices are very important for that. Extending production time periods or production schedules is very important for that. But all that again is under USDA, it's under Conservation Program Services, it's under Hoop House Program Services, under EPORT Program Services, and many other programs also that represent both program revenue that in essence creates a stronger and more powerful and more profitable type of farming operation. Farm Service Agency has to connect back in because they have the farm numbers. Once you get access to the land, be sure you have control of the land, then an individual has to get a farm number for that piece of property. Once they get a farm number, Mr. Jones, that's a farm. It's a farm. It is a farm. Then you have an urban farm. There is no doubt in my mind that USDA and NRCS is very serious about this particular opportunity that exists under urban farm. And based on the fact that they created a state technical committee for micro urban farming. Now, not only is USDA serious about it, there are a tremendous amount of resources that are targeted back toward these areas as far as growth is concerned, opportunity to grow, self-employment, from that perspective. And it's not just when you say farming and rural. Now, farming and rural is farming in urban and rural. So it's one of the, I guess, greatest opportunities for farm growth and beginning farming is linked back to the micro-urban farm. Rural farms, a lot of the rural farms and rural farm population are getting larger, have gotten larger and larger, and the numbers have gotten smaller as far as numbers are concerned. The land side is still there. The technology and the way that they operate is considerably different. So again, that's workshop one, workshop two, one focusing on conservation resource opportunities for rural and urban agriculture. The other one, we're focusing on farm financing, micro-urban farming, local food supply, and opportunities for beginning farmers on workshop two. And the workshop session three will be talking about heir property and challenges and opportunities as it relates to heir property. I'll come back and talk some about that, you know, from the heir property perspective. And again, that doesn't exist just from a farm perspective and in rural areas. You have that same issue in the city, man, where you have some of the properties that may be abandoned, where people, it is an heirship situation, undivided interest. And so no one people have a real stake in it or controlling stake in it. So they're not invested in anything in it, and they can't access resources because it is undivided interest, no clear title and ownership. Well, there are ways that you can work through that process now, at least for individuals who want to possibly make that property available and creating some of those properties as urban micro farm type of lands, you know, from that standpoint, and also what the new law represents on the heir property. I'm going to stop at this point, and we're going to go ahead with our work session two, district conservation for Mclennan County. Make sure I get this, Miss Alicia will be presenting for Natural Resource Conservation Services, 1 USDA. Miss Alicia, conservation for NRCS.
Hello, everyone. I'd like to thank you for allowing me to come speak today. My name is Alicia Thrush, and I am a district conservationist with Natural Resources Conservation Services, specifically for Mclennan County. I have worked with the Natural Resources Conservation Services since about 2016, and I've been a district conservationist since about a year ago in Mclennan County. Today, I'd like to specifically talk to you about our EQIP program, Environmental Quality Incentive Program. And I might have to point to the next slide, I'm sorry. Oh, okay, a little bit louder.
Just come closer to the mic.
Okay, can you hear me? Well, okay. If you will change to the next slide for me, please. Okay, so specifically, EQIP is there to provide financial assistance to farmers to address resource concerns and also help them with opportunities enhancing their farm, doing conservation practices. These conservation practices address resource concerns for soil, water, air, plants, and animals. And not only do we offer the financial assistance, we offer technical assistance. So even outside of our programs, we can always provide assistance for free, coming out to your land anytime, your farm, look over everything and provide that technical assistance with our, we have special, sorry.
Just tell me what seasonal high tone for those people who don't know.
Yes.
The picture they're looking at.
I'm actually going to talk about that. So one of the pictures in this is the seasonal high tunnel, or some people call it hoop house. That's one of the practices we offer with our programs through EQIP. And yeah.
I didn't know what it was because our team talking.
Yeah. They come in several different sizes. There is a max square footage that we can pay for in an application, but if there are other applications they can put in for additional high tunnels in the future, if they plan to expand on it, it's more of a controlled environment, allows for a longer extended growing season for your vegetables. You will also probably see some biodegradable synthetic plastic mulch in the picture. It basically breaks down. It also provides extra cover for your plants. That is a practice that we pay for under our EQIP program. And you don't have to have a high tunnel to grow vegetables. We still will do practices, management practices for that. One of the things we would do is check to see if you have any type of irrigation history, to see maybe if you qualify for some of the irrigation practices under our program. But we do offer things outside of irrigation for your management stuff. So your cover crops, reduced tillage, crop rotation. Those are some activities that you can do under this program. So for irrigation history, if you can provide irrigation history, whether it's through, maybe you've certified your crops through Farm Service Agency, we can check their records. And if you don't have that and you've been irrigating it by hand, a lot of people that are beginning farmers may not have been certifying crops. If they're new to it, if they've been watering these vegetables the last 2 out of the last 5 years, that's considered irrigation history. They would just have to do a self-certification form, and we would have to turn in that information. Granted, it depends on what they're asking for, but for micro irrigation, we do offer micro irrigation. So that would be more uniform distribution of water in the high tunnel or outside the high tunnel for your vegetables. And there's the opportunity to offer a well, depending on if there's that resource concern there. If you do not have water available, we would look to see possibly doing that. We'd have to get approval through engineer, but we would look over that and assess it and everything. But if you'll follow the next slide. When you come into our office, the first thing we would do is kind of follow these steps. There's not particular order, but initially the first thing you would do is we would want to sit down with you and kind of discuss with you about opportunities, your concerns, maybe some concerns you have on the property, to enhance your farm or provide you with assistance on the farm. We would go through the application process, helping you fill that out, and we would go out to your property, maybe schedule a meeting to come visit and look at your resource concerns in person, and do an inventory to see what you have out there. And then we'll come back and say, hey, you might need these practices to address these concerns. One of the things in step 3, it says about eligibility. That is something that Dr. King was discussing with the Farm Service Agency. We work closely with them. They're a sister agency. They will set up a farm and track number for you. Some people will do that from the start, and before they come see us, we'll have a farm map. So it does help us kind of in the beginning stages to see what you have out there in person. But they will also sign you up for HEL, which is highly erodible land, and wetland compliance. That's one of the things that have to be completed on that particular farm and track, along with adjusted gross income form. So that would be just for your income that you get from, if you're not exceeding the $900,000 payment limitations. So that would have to be completed. That'll set up your farm and track and get you good to go for what we like to do for our ranking. And our ranking process, it's a combination of your resource concerns, your practices. There's some questions in there for local questions, depending on the funding pool which we're ranking you under, which I'll kind of go through and discuss here in just a minute. But there are a set of questions that we have to rank along with the other things. So it's like a collection of things that determine a ranking score. And based on that ranking score, that's how the money would be divvied out from the highest to the lowest. At the end, close to step 5, if you get pre-approved for an application, we will contact you, have you come in, and we'll go over everything as we discussed in the beginning to make sure that you're good with everything and make how we planned everything. We kind of like to do it over, a 5-year period. Kind of gives you more time to plan things out. And if you have questions for us, and just kind of finalize everything, and if you're good with everything, we go through and we sign you up, and you get approved, essentially. So there's some more things in here I'd like to discuss with you in further detail. So we will change the slide. The equip ranking pool categories. These are funding pools set aside through the state, local, national, and special project initiatives that people can be ranked under for agricultural producers. So alternative crops in the statewide funding pool, that is your vegetable farmers. And last year for fiscal year 21, we actually ranked our high tunnel applicants under this category because as you can see further down in the national, seasonal high tunnel was not available in 21, but I'm hoping that they'll have that special category for FY22, but no promises. But the alternative crops is available for those seasonal high tunnels. So that is one category. Historically underserved, that's your beginning farmers, your socially disadvantaged farmers, your limited resource farmers, and veteran farmers, which I'll go through if you're not aware of any of how those are defined. A beginning farmer is someone who has farmed less 10 years consecutively, and socially disadvantaged would be your minority farmers, like your Black farmers, your Asian farmers, your Hispanic farmers, Pacific Islanders, Native Americans. Those are some of the categories in statewide funding pool. So, and along with that, they have crop, pasture, forestry, wildlife, and CAPA, which is confined animal operations. And those are usually specifically for, when I rank my applicants for under the crop lot or crop, pasture, forestry, those are people that usually don't fit into your local funds. For local, that is a pool of money set aside for each county. And you have a group of board members, which are farmers in your county and landowners that help you decide along with your partners. So Forestry Commission, Game and Fish, Extension Service, Farm Service Agency. We get together each year to kind of decide on how we're going to expend that money. It's not a lot. And each county gets different amounts of money. So it could be less, it could be more from one year to the next. And primarily our focus the last few years in Creighton County has been for row crop, and particularly for irrigation and soil health. So that's one thing we've been focused on. It can change from year to year. Anyone's invited to those meetings and we can make changes. And for the national initiatives for organic transition, your on farm energy, and your seasonal high tunnel. Again, seasonal high tunnel, we didn't have that available this year, but we did rank them in alternative crop. Climate smart agriculture forestry. That is a new project that they had this year, a pilot program. And it was released kind of late in the year. So we had a short little window, like a few weeks, and we had to rank our existing applicants on file and contact anybody that we might have known that was interested in that. But it's particularly for, which I'm going to actually talk about that here in a minute, so I won't elaborate on that right now. Special project initiatives, that's under landscape conservation initiatives, and the Mississippi Preservation Initiative, or MRBI. There is a big project area in Creighton County, in the center of the county, Lower St. Francis, and I'll talk a little bit further on that. National Water Quality Initiative, that is for your groundwater decline counties. We are not considered that here in Creighton County, but there are several counties in the state of Arkansas that fall under that. And that is a fund pool that you could qualify for. Joint Chiefs Landscape Partnership and Strike Force. Strike Force is another initiative that we can rank historically underserved producers under for that fund pool. Let's set aside. You'll change to the next slide. Okay, so as I was talking about the Climate Smart Agriculture and Forestry, the pilot program that was done this year, and I think they're going to continue on with it. This is money set aside, particularly for socially disadvantaged producers to reduce greenhouse emissions and offer financial assistance in conservation practices. Their primary focus is to address soil health and nitrogen management. So some of the practices that you see there, crop rotation, reduce tillage cover crop, no-till, and nutrient management will be addressing those concerns. Along with that, you've got some supporting practices. Your irrigation water management, if you do have irrigation history, that is a practice that we offer for that. And the pest management. And there are currently 9 counties that, there are currently 9 counties that are involved in that, Creighton County being one of them. You can go to the next slide. This one right here, this project, this is our MRBI project. And I've got a map here. It's not real clear, but we do have one in the office and we do have a geospatial layer that we can look up a farming tract and it will show us. Sorry, my throat's getting dry. So anyway, you can see it crosses over into Cross County and down south to St. Francis County and far north to Earl and down south to Wampanoag on the east side. But this one here does not cover high tunnels, but it does address soil health practices and other things that affect the watershed. So I did highlight some things on there: cover crop, nutrient management, and reduce tillage. Those are things that are offered for non-irrigated or irrigated ground, but the other practices that are in there, sorry, losing my voice. Those are including in there. Those are more structural things. And again, these are there to address the watershed. There are MRBI projects across the state. So this is not the only one in the state. These are just specifically for Crittenden County. So these slides are a little bit more geared towards Crittenden County, but if you don't mind switching over to the next one. All right, so for historically underserved farmers, there is a higher practice payment rate. So you are qualified for a 9% cost share. That is a little higher than traditional. It's usually about 60 to 75% depending on the funding pool that you're in. So a little higher cost share payment rate. Advanced payments. So if you do get pre-approved, you have the opportunity to take an advanced payment on certain practices. That's up to 50% of the practice. We have to know in the beginning so that we can plan ahead that you're going to ask for that 50%. Once you've installed that, it's usually about 60 days you have to, once you take that payment, 60 days to install that. And if it meets our standards and specs, then we'll pay out the rest of the money on that. You are more than welcome to let us know if there are funding pools that you wish to consider. But when someone comes in and they automatically check that, when they check off the beginning farmer or socially disadvantaged, we mark all those in the system. We automatically rank you under each of those inside of the funding pools. You'll go to the next slide. All right, so very short notice, but we do have an application deadline for our statewide funding pools and for our local lead equip applications tomorrow, November 19th. Very short notice. For our MRBI project area, the one that had the big map across Polk County, just about December 17th. That's the special project area. We do have some more flexibility than we had in the past with accepting equip applications or any other applications. You can bring it into the office. You can mail it in the mail. You can email it to me. You can put it in the Dropbox. Any of those forms are acceptable. And we always accept your application. It doesn't matter what time of year, if it's after a deadline or before a deadline, we'll accept those applications. And even if it's not considered in the upcoming fiscal year, we would put you in the next fiscal year, or if we have a second sign up, you will be considered for the second sign up. Sometimes we have a couple a year. If you're interested in the program, if your farm is physically located in that county, contact that field office. A lot of our equip programs or the money comes from, if you're in local money, that comes from our county. So anybody in the county, those are considered for that fund. If you're outside of the county, we'd like for you to go to those offices just because of the fact that you're pulling from the money from that local sometimes. But with that being said, this is my contact information. Feel free to call me. You can email me, you can come by the office, you can ask me anything you want. We also have people that help us in the office. We've got my technician here. He does a lot of our field work. His name is Zach Brown. And then we've got Jacob Scarborough. He's our irrigation specialist. So he helps kind of distribute water across the field. He helps with soil moisture sensors, surge valves, flow meters, that kind of stuff. And then I've got a soil con that works with me. He's not here today, but Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank Samaka. Okay. I'll call that.
But anyway, that's about our equip program. If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask. If not, pretty much all I have, so. Yes, sir.
I missed a part of what you were saying just a moment ago about paying off the remaining balances.
Okay, so if you get pre-approved and you qualify for our equip program.
Alicia,
Oh, I'm sorry.
the speaker don't get it.
Okay, so if you are pre-approved for a VHOP application and you are a historically underserved farmer, you have the opportunity to take the advance payment on practices. And those are usually the higher cost share practices. So if you come in and you want a high tunnel, and obviously it's a very high expense sometimes. So people need that money up front to help pay for that. So we offer 50% of what we pay you on that high tunnel up front. Whenever you decide to take that money to install that practice. So that 50% is to purchase that high tunnel kit, have it installed. We come out and check it out to make sure it meets our standards and specs, and then we'll pay you the other 50% of that payment. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Alicia, do you have any high tones in the city of West Memphis installed?
That's another thing, actually. We do have a participant that was like 2 years ago that had gotten selected for our equip program, and she wanted to do the high tunnel, the mulching, the micro irrigation. And her neighbors didn't like the fact that she was installing the high tunnel and right next to their house. So I think there was a little thought about that and went to the city. I think the city of Memphis told her not to install it. So because she, we were stuck in that advance payment and there was some issues with that, but because the city denied it, we were able to have the ability to cancel that contract without any liability to the participant. And she had another contract, so she was able to do that one, just not the hot tunnel, unfortunately. But yeah, it's definitely one to check to make sure that your neighbors are good with it and the city's good with it before you get into deep with those, because it can be a conflict sometimes. Is there anything else? Yes, sir.
What is the responsibility of the farmer's board of directors?
Okay, so usually the board of directors, every county has them, and I think every year they have like an election, but I don't really know how official it is. That's through our conservation district. We are housed with them in the same office. We're kind of like sister agencies too. They have their own programs, but these farmers are from around the county, and they're landowners. They can be landowners or farmers, and they really just kind of deal with mostly the district stuff, which would be like saying yes to phone bills or expenses they have to make for their agency. We have irrigation specialists that's paid with their funds through them, and they say, yes, okay, pay him, that kind of stuff. And then for our local money that's set aside for our county, they are involved in a little bit of that, but for the most part, it's collective. It's other agencies that are involved in that too. So like when we make decisions on practices that we want to do or resource concerns we want to address, it's a collection of everyone saying, yes, they like it, and they have a decision. If they don't like it, we can make changes. It's not something that's set on one person to decide upon. So
How are they selected?
honestly, I don't know. They have a voting system, and a lot of times people don't come and vote, so then they just stay on there forever. We have some people that's been on there for like 30 years. So,
Okay.
but you are more than welcome to contact the conservation district, and they can give you some more information on that. Again, NRCS doesn't decide upon that. That's strictly through the conservation district. And I think they're supposed to put that in the newspapers and other things.
So I'm gonna ask a question. What's the
Yes.
minimum size?
There's not really a minimum size for that specifically. There's not even really a minimum size for high tunnels that people would like to put on a property, but you gotta be aware of the size and make sure that it's gonna fit on your property. And we do have size options. We've got a vendor list that we offer to people that they can call and check around for those high tunnels. We cannot specifically tell you where to buy that high tunnel because we're not partial to one vendor over the other. We have that list and you can check on prices and check on to see who you would like to go with. And the vendor list is there because these are people that work with our standards and specs to make sure that it's right when it's installed. So, but there's no minimum on the farm. Yes, sir.
I just spoke with the mayor and he said they had just started a land bank as for the blight properties and having soon, somewhere down in the near future, they will have a land bank to where they'll possibly be given the citizens land for urban farm.
Okay. Yeah, so one of the things that y'all had mentioned earlier about a meeting that y'all had with Mike Sullivan, I was not a part of that, so I don't know what was mentioned. But hopefully in the future, I did mention that we do have a lot of high tunnel applicants and just not a lot of money for it. EQIP's been, we've lost some money in that program lately, and we're hoping the next year that we'll see more money and go back out and check on these people that have applications and just keep them updated. I like to stay connected with people and reevaluate to see if there's any more concerns out there that we can help with their applications. So, is there anything else?
Good job.
Oh.
Thank Anisha with the Mclennan County District Natural Resources Conservation Services. The part on the urban farm, I wanted to just encourage both the city and NRCS that partnership and with us in this whole partnership process, what's occurring with the land bank, that we possibly come back, have what I call, once we have these meetings, is like a working group in the area. And I'll have another person I'll be following back up with the working group. The working group, based on what plans could look like for micro-urban farming in this local area, as well as other program initiatives. I won't go into the farm financing portion of it. Do we have a person on
We got Rod Woods.
Mr. Woods, as I understand it, is on. We're gonna go on to our next workshop session. As you mentioned, NRCS, there's a connectivity between NRCS, EQIP program and program services. I just want to emphasize this. Initially gave reference to FSA, NRCS making an assessment of the property, what the needs are, and the type of benefits and services that be provided by NRCS. If you acquire the property and you do not have a farm number, you cannot get the services from NRCS. So it is imperative that you get the farm number, and our process is going to be recommend you get the farm number and then begin the application process for the services with NRCS. And it's an application process of how you sign up for it, not just going to the office and say, I want these services. Again, work session 2, we're now with Farm Service Agency. We have Mr. Rod Woods, who's here. He's the County Executive Director of FSA. I'm not sure what county he's out of. Jefferson County. He's out of Jefferson. That's one good part about it. We can be in Mclennan County and have the USDA staff people come from other counties. You're doing your work session. That's one part about it. Mr. Rod Woods, you on?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you quite well, quite well. Okay, we're ready for you.
Okay, I'm gonna try to do this by sharing my screen and pull up my presentation for you. Can you see that screen? My PowerPoint screen.
We can see you, but not the PowerPoint screen.
Oh, you can't see it. You don't see my PowerPoint presentation.
No, not at this point.
Okay, let's try that again.
We see you though.
Okay. Now are you seeing anything?
We see your screen. We see your screen.
But you don't see the PowerPoint, but you not the presentation.
It's got affidavit, heirship instruction, Arkansas affidavit.
Okay, that's
heirship.
the wrong screen.
That's what we have up.
Okay, let me share. Not sure why it's not.
But Rod, you don't have to have a screen, do you?
No, I can talk about what I'm going to talk about without it, but there is some information that someone on the screen might want to write down as far as websites and things like that, that is difficult to read all that to someone who might want to write that down.
I'll get the information from you. We got the capacity of saving it here.
Okay.
And download it. I'll share it with them.
Okay. Well, I'll go ahead and start, and I'll try to, as I'm talking, still try to figure out why I'm not, why the screen is not sharing with you. Again, my name is Rod Woods. I'm the County Executive Director for the Farm Service Agency in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, Jefferson County. I'm going to talk to you today about getting set up for a farm number so that you can participate in some of these programs that both FSA has and also NRCS has. The farm number is the basic block for our participation. And if you're new to FSA, it can be a little difficult to sometimes get set up, but once you set up, everything goes a whole lot smoother for you. But today's focus is going to be on getting set up with that farm number. And we're also going to talk about heirs property along with that, and also some of our informational resources that we have set up for people to access fact sheets and program data about our different FSA programs. All right. Attaining a farm number. If you haven't worked with us before, you must register your farm and with FSA to be eligible for farm programs. And again, you must have a farm number to apply for programs that the NRCS offers, including the EQIP program and CSP. There is no minimum acreage to register as a farm. Now, the best way to do this to make things go smoothly is, especially during the pandemic, is call ahead for your local FSA office and make an appointment. Let's see, what and when you do that, it gives us time to prepare cool forms and things necessary for you to sign and also gives time to tell you what you need to bring so you won't have, lessen the likelihood of having to make multiple trips to the county office. Be prepared to provide your address along with your social security number or your employment identification number. Be prepared to provide that information. What we'll do with the information, we'll located in our GIS system. And there's a possibility it may already have, if it's land that you purchased from someone, it might already have a farm number. And in which case then we just would update the records to the new owner. But if it's not, then we'll have to go down a different path if the farm has never been registered. So like if you've purchased your land in the last few months, you must bring your property deed, as the system may not be updated to recognize your name associated with your property. Now, if you do not own the land and you're just renting it, we would need for you to bring a lease agreement to show that you have control of the property. And that lease agreement needs to be signed by the owners on it. It doesn't have to be fancy and drawn up by an attorney, but it does need to be signed by the owners. And when I say owners, it need to be the owners that FSA has on record. If your operation is incorporated, such as a regular corporation or LLC or entity, such as a partnership, you need to provide proof that you have signature authority to sign for that entity or partnership, and that you can legally enter into contracts with USDA. Also, when setting up for our programs also, and for the NRCS programs, you have to have what is called a CCC 941, which is a certification of income. And what that does is, to be eligible for our programs, you cannot have an adjusted gross income of the previous 3 years, average adjusted gross income of the previous 3 years of more than $900,000. Again, that's an average. They don't. You don't have to tell us how much income it is, and FSA does not process these. We take the form and then send it off to the IRS for verification, and they simply tell us yes or no about is either above 900,000 or below 900,000. So that's what the 941. Also, if you are new to the agency or have been using our websites to download forms, make sure recently the IRS has changed how they accept these forms, because they're doing, once we get them, we're sending them off and they're being scanned in. We're emailing them off, I should say, and they're being scanned into their system. So therefore, in order for the scanner to read the information, they need to be typed. They will not accept a handwritten CCC 941, or we won't accept it because the IRS won't. So be sure if you do happen to be able to know how to download our forms off our website, be mindful of that fact that is a new requirement that IRS enacted just a few months ago, or less than a few months ago. Also, you need to file a 1026 if one has not been, to make sure that the land is in compliance with any conservation, with highly erodible or wetlands. You would need to file that. And then if it's an entity or legal, any kind of legal entity, you'd have to do a CCC 901, which basically identifies, if it's a corporation, it identifies the members who are getting shares in that corporation and who they are. And we would need the name, address, and social security numbers of those members. We're going to talk real quick. Now I'm going to the heirs property, because there's a lot going on with that now. The recent farm bill has tried to address, our most recent farm bill has tried to address how to deal with heirs property. And heirs property is an issue in not only with USDA, but any kind of business venture, because the land is jointly owned by descendants of a deceased person whose estate did not go through a clear probate. The descendants or heirs have the right to use the property, but they do not have a clear marketable title to the property since the estate issues remain unresolved. The 2018 Farm Bill authorized an alternative documentation because the problem is with an heir property, no one has a deed with their name on it. There's a deed, but it might have it'll have the person who deceased that has owned it, and that could have been a deed that was, 50, 40, multiple decades old. And when you bring that in, we cannot accept it as proof of ownership because your name is not on it. But the 2018 Farm Bill had alternative documentation for heirs, property for operators, and trying to establish a farm number. Operators on heirs property who cannot provide owner verification or a lease agreement may provide alternative documents to substantiate they are in general control of the farming operation. Now, for USDA and FSA, there's a difference between a farm operator and a farm owner. Now, a farm operator is an individual entity or joint operation who is in general control of the farming operation for the current year. It is the person who runs the farm making day-to-day management decisions. This could be the owner or a hired manager or a cash tenant or share tenant or a partner. Now, an owner is just like it says, that's who actually owns the farm. And like I said previously, one of the definition, the owner and operator can be the same person, but not necessarily. But the owner is always the owner. And that little distinction sometimes get people confused because sometimes the operator can sign things in our office and sometimes only the owner can sign for it. How to establish your farm as a operator? Okay, well, when we're talking about as heir property, and it works the same if it's not heir property, but this will vary on whether you farm in a state that has enacted the Uniform Partition of Heirs Property Act. UPHPA helps preserve family wealth passed on to the next generation in the form of real property. If a landowner dies intestate, the real estate passes to the landowner's heirs as tenants in common under state law. And intestate means without a will. The good news is Arkansas is a state that has enacted or adopted the Uniform Partition of Heirs Property Act. Just about every state in the South except Louisiana and North Carolina has adopted this law. Now, what is this law? What does it do? What does it do? What it does, it verifies the land meets the definition of heirs property as defined. The local records, let me get this right. Verifying the land meets the definition of heirs property as defined by the act. From the local recorder of deeds, the recorded owner of the land is deceased and at least one heir has initiated a procedure to retitle land. What this is trying to prevent people from doing, and it happens not as much as it used to, but it still happens where heirs property, and of course, like I said, it could be several heirs that own a piece of property. Somebody, a third party who has no affiliation with that land other than maybe as an investor can come in or has been able to in the past come in and make an offer to one or more of those heirs and say, okay, sell me your portion. Then once they get in, as an owner, then what they agree to it and they sell their rights to it, they can effect a sale through the court, and the land goes up to sale, and then it goes to the higher bidder, which is probably the person who will end up being the one who came in and made the offer to the heirs to begin with. And a lot of land has lost, switched hands that way using that method. But this Uniform Partitions Act, it allows at least to stop these sales by allowing one of the persons of the heirs if they've at least initiated the procedure of retitling the land, then that effect stops them from being able to come in and make an offer to an heir and in effect trying to force a sale. There's other things that it does to it allows to establish a farmer's operator, a tenancy in common agreement approved by the majority of the owners that gives the individual a right to manage and control a portion or all of the land. You can bring in tax returns for the previous 5 years, showing that the individual has an undivided farming interest. Self-certification that the individual has control of the land for the purpose of operating a farm or ranch. Any other documentation acceptable by the FSA county office that establishes that the individual has general control of the farming operation, including but not limited to any of the following: affidavit from the owner stating that the individual has control of the land, limited power of attorney giving the individual control of the land, or council checks or receipts for rent payments and operating expenses. And this is stuff these are alternate forms of what you can use to establish an operator of the land under the Uniform Partitions Act. Okay, now ownership, a little bit more detail or more requirements on that. Of course, a copy of the deed, if recorded, is always good. An unrecorded deed is acceptable if the specific USDA program does not require a recorded deed. Off the top of my head, I can't think of a program that doesn't require a recorded deed, but that's what's written in the handbook, so we'll have to go with that. A land purchase contract or similar document that affirms ownership of interest. And you can also check the record of the County Land Records Office from the website. Those counties, I think every county now, I would assume you can go on their website and look at official ownership records. Some of that can be used to establish ownership. Some additional ways to establish ownership for heirs property is a certification of heir that may not be able to provide a legal documentation to confirm ownership of the property. The certification will need to be accompanied by documentation such as a real estate tax assessment or bill, proof of gift tax, a will, affidavit of ownership or heirship, and other documents that might exist under state law. With that, I would like to entertain some questions, if there are any, about attaining a farm number, either through just regular means or if we're dealing with heir property. If we have any questions on that, I'd like to give them an opportunity to ask at this point.
All right, this is Calvin King. I want to go back to the air property issue. I know you gave reference to the process you could use in dealing with air property with FSA and accessing resources. One of the documents for the state of Arkansas is called an affidavit for air property interest. And that's a document you can find online. And individual heirs, what they do, they sign and they have to have a witness, an individual to witness that document that know them, that's not a family member, to be a neighbor, whichever, that they are an heir to that particular piece of property. But it's an affidavit for heir interest and ownership and property. Back to your other point that you made regarding air property and the new law that deals with the Unified Air Property Act. Just a little clarity point on that. The Unified Air Property Act itself, in dealing with air property, an individual such as the affidavit for heirship, if 3 family members or 4 family members have that signed and validated by an outside individual or neighbor that they are heirs, they can file that with the court. And the courts itself will then, you can receive from the courts that document from the courts, a legal document, determination of basis of interest and of their heirship and interest in the property. On the area regarding the petition of the courts as well, under the new law now, what it does is this, is that if an individual petitions by way of an affidavit for petitioning, once they petition the courts, they cannot force the property through what used to be a general sale of that property. They must first offer it to the other heirs who have interest in that property and what the market value would be. So whatever the appraised market value is of that land, then they must offer to those other heirs that has an interest in retaining the property and retaining the farm. Now, Ross, the good part about that is that Farm Service Agency now under USDA, they have a air property relending program. And I'm not sure on what CDFI, Community Development Finance Institutions, are doing the relending here in Arkansas. But what that provides for with FSA is that if the individual then petitions the court and then they make the offer back to the other heirs, and the other heirs who want to buy that individual's interest out, then they would have access to those USDA resources as far as a qualifying basis from the courts to get the financing to buy those out, the other individual's interest out, and if it's outside, to buy the outside individual out and have the title ownership of that property by way of a court document, as well as the affidavit for heirship that can be taken back to USDA and Farm Service Agency. But I just wanted to add that on the financing portion of it, and the Arkansas State affidavit for heir interest ownership that you can get offline and have those signed as a part of a legal document going through the court proceeding process regarding heirship and control of property. Are there any other questions that the audience may have regarding?
Question.
Question.
Mr. Woods, the gentleman out in the audience want to know how long does it typically take to get a farm number?
Well, that depends. Now, if you're dealing with air property, it can be a long, drawn-up process because you have to bring. I'm sorry.
We have the warranty deed.
Now, if you have a warranty deed, then
We have the warranty deed.
Okay, yeah. If you have a warranty deed, then it goes smoother. It's just a matter of how long, based on our workload, because we have to go in on our system, our GIS software, and physically draw that farm boundary off if it doesn't already have a farm number. We have to use that legal survey, and sometimes reading them things can be kind of difficult because there's no standard procedure on how they're written. Some of them use degrees, some of them use rods, some of them use feet, some of them use meters, and we have, you have to do the converting and all that kind of stuff. So it just depends on that. But if it's not a complicated legal description, I've done them the same day they came in. But depending on workload, I shouldn't take no longer than 3 to 5 business days to get one. If normally, and I'm only speaking for Jefferson County. I don't know, again, what other counties might have on that. But yes, getting in those situations when you have a warranty deed, it normally does not take that long.
All right, thank you, Rod.
Mm-hmm. Wanted to add one more thing about that affidavit of heirship. Some people try to do them on their own, and there's nothing wrong with that because it's not a FSA form; it's a state form. Just want to remind that they can be tedious because you have to do a lot of family research, and you need to find some of these people, especially if some of the heirs no longer live on the property or in different states. But I do realize not everybody has the financial means to go hire an attorney to go do this, but do realize that this is a legal form and a legal process. So it needs to be done legal, following all the legal steps in order for it to be legit.
Right, basically what you have to have on that, Rod, you have to have it, it has to be signed by, has to be a witness sign it, has to be notarized also, it also has to be notarized. But the one that's online, again, the individual heirs sign the form, there's an heirship area, and where those individuals sign it, there is a signature area for the witness, the one who witnessed based on legal statement that they're swearing in notice these individuals are heirs to this particular property, either the neighbor, whichever, are their knowledge of the family, and of course it has to be notarized as well. But that one, it's an online document. And for individuals, if you have and again, some don't have don't want to deal with the legal process of hiring attorneys, individuals who need that particular service, you can contact our office. We can work with you through the process. We have a notary in the office. So what you would need is those individuals and the one that gives a testimony or testifies to the extent of the heirship to the property and notarize it accordingly. And even prior to taking it to FSA, and it's not an excessive filing fee just to file it, to get it filed in, go file it back for the courts.
Dr. King, I got one more thing to add about that too. Each person that's an heir, when all this is done, when you bring us one, this book got everything on it. Everyone that's on there is going to be put on the system as a owner.
Yes.
So the only way we can put you in the system, we need your name, address, and social security number. So they would have to fill out a form that's called the AD 2047. Now, some of them might not, some people, especially, and I don't blame you, they may not be real thrilled to give you their social security number. I mean, you might be relatives, but you may not be that close that you want to give that kind of information out. You don't have to, if one person is handling it, you can send that form directly to the office and nobody else will see it, but the county office. But every person that's on that affidavit of heirship, there's an owner, will need to fill that form out so that we can enter in, because what you're saying to us is their owner. So it could be 8, could be 2, 4. I got some that's got 20 people that actually own the land, and we need to. So we load all 20 people in there, and they're all owners. So be mindful of that fact. And the 2047 is a form that we got online, and it's available at the county office also.
Rod, appreciate it. That's work session 2. Next we have in work session 2 is USDA rural development. And we have, and Rod, don't go anywhere, because I'm going to come back to a couple of things with Farm Service Agency, if you don't mind.
Okay, I'll be around.
Yeah, I want to come back after the next 2 presenters.
Hey, I got a question.
Yes.
I want to make sure that I'm clear on something that you discussed. It sounded as though if there are multiple offers, that the USDA has approved a funds that will allow certain owners to buy out the others that want to sell. Did I hear that correctly?
Would you repeat that question? Okay. question was, it said, Ronnie said, it appears that USDA has a form that you can utilize to deal with buying out individuals' interests in their property. Am I right? In their property. The USDA's form does not allow you to buy the interest out. And I think I made reference to that based on what Rod was saying. The way that it works is that you have an affidavit of heirship. You can get that as a certified document, witness and notarized. And then it's like petitioning the court. And if you petition the courts on your interest or ownership in the property, then the courts establish the fact you have interest and ownership in that particular property. Now, if you don't want to sell the property, you just deal with the fact that you have interest, and that's a certification that you have interest in the property. If there is an individual heir who petitioned the court that want their interest out of the property, they're petitioning the court to try to force the property sold. Then what they first have to do is to offer their interest in the property back to you at the appraised value. And once they offer it back to you for the appraised value, then what FSA has now, they have an heir property loan program. And that heir property loan program that they have put it out to what they call relenders. I'm hoping they have some in Arkansas that's doing that, to the relenders under a relending program. What they can do then is make you a loan to buy that heir's interest out of one individual or all the other heirs who want to buy that one or two heirs' interest out of the property. They can make you a loan to do that. And so that does not give clear title and ownership by one individual. As far as the land is concerned, if it's more than one, still have an interest in the property. But it does, it reduces the risk factor, and you have other options of what you can do. And all those individuals, they say, would have to then still sign an affidavit as far as authority and control of the land, either by one individual as an administrator, or you can create an LLC, limited liability corporation, and determine based on the bylaws how it is governed and its ownership in it, and with an administrator for that LLC is another way to do it. But access to the financing based on that process. Is Mr. Steve Mosier on?
Steve Mosier, let everybody be mindful. We got two more presenters and we got 30 minutes left. Steve Mosier and LaTanya Chanel with Small Business Administration.
Okay, we have two more presenters. We're in workshop 2 now. We have Steve Mosier and Miss
LaTanya Chanel.
LaTanya Chanel with Small Business Administration. That will be presenting under our work session 2. So we're now going to go to Mr. Steve Mosier, work session 2, USDA rule of development.
Thank you, Dr. King. It's always a pleasure to be a partner with Arkansas Land and Community Development Corporation. And thank you, Mr. Jones. It's always a pleasure to work with you also. Can you all see my screen okay?
Yeah.
Okay. USDA rural development, we'd like to share with you about our 42 different programs. We are committed to helping improve the economy and quality of life in rural America. I'm Steve Mosier. I'm a program coordinator for the South part of the United States. I've got 12 states and Puerto Rico and Virgin Island territories. USDA rural development improves the economy and quality of life in rural America through our programs. We help rural America in many different ways. We offer loans, guarantees, and grants to help create jobs and support economic development for essential services such as housing, healthcare, first responders, equipment, water and electric, and communication infrastructures. We promote economic development by supporting loans to businesses through banks, credit unions, and community managed lending pools. We offer technical assistance and information to help agriculture producers and cooperatives get started and improve the effectiveness of their operation. We provide technical assistance to help communities undertake community empowerment programs, and we help rural residents buy or rent safe, affordable housing and make health and safety repairs to their homes. USDA rural development priorities consist of equity, climate, and COVID-19 recovery. USDA rural development, we have 42 different programs, and under those 42 different programs, they fall under 3 different pillars. We have the Rural Business and Cooperative Service Program, we have Rural Housing Services, and we have Rural Utility Services. Our United States is divided up into 4 regions. I have the southern region, which is kind of in the mustard yellow color. There are 47 state offices, and there are 400 area offices, and of course, 1 office in our national office in Washington, D.C. I'm a virtual employee. I'm located in Arkansas. And like I said, I cover the South for special projects and for outreach and USDA rural development program promotion. Under the rural housing program, we have a 502 single family housing program. That is a program that the interest rate is subsidized based on your income. And all of our housing programs are 100% loan to value programs, which is about not found anywhere else besides VA. The self-help housing program is a program where it utilizes the 502 program and helps families actually build their homes, and they learn workforce skills as part of that process. If your income is too high for our direct program, we have a guaranteed housing program in which we guarantee lenders loans to make housing loans in rural areas. The population limitation for our housing programs is 35,000 population or less. We have 2 programs. One is a 504 loan and grant program to help repair your home and make it decent, safe, and sanitary. And then we also have a housing preservation grant program. On the 504 loan program, it has a grant component up to $7,500 grant if you're over the age of 62 and are very low income. If you do not meet that criteria, we still can make you up to $20,000 loan, and it's a 1% loan, and it's for 20 years. So it's a really good program to help repair your home or to make it handicap accessible, or to make it decent, safe, and sanitary. We also have a multifamily housing program. We have over 700 complexes in the state of Arkansas financed under that program. And every complex has a different number of units. And under that program, if you qualify income-wise, you can actually get up to rental assistance where your housing cost does not exceed 30% of your median household income. We also have a community facility program. Under that program, we have guarantee loans, we have direct loans, and we have grants. We also have a rural community development initiative grant and community facilities technical assistance and training grants. Under that program, we can finance schools, daycares, firehouses, first responder vehicles, first responder equipment, hospitals, health clinics, jails, community centers, and just about anything a rural community needs. So that program, like I said, it's a program that can have a grant component of that, and the grant portion of that is determined based on the area to be served and what the median household income of that area. Under our rural utilities programs, we have water and waste disposal loan and grant programs, and that's to help with infrastructure and processing of water, our waste disposal. We have guarantees and we have direct loans and grants for that program. We also have a solid waste management grant. We have technical assistance and training grants. We have distance learning and telemedicine grants for schools or medical facilities. We have Community Connect grants, and Reconnect is another program that helps with broadband. We have rural broadband access loan and loan guarantees. We also have telecommunication infrastructure loans and grants. And we also have electric programs under our rural utilities program. This is an example of one of the projects that we financed. Like I said, we do a lot of fiber. We can also do wireless through the telecommunications program. We have a rural a Reconnect program that's available right now, and cooperatives such as electric co-ops and co-ops such as telephone co-ops work really good on this program because they already have poles and they can run fiber on those poles. Like I said, we have water and waste disposal loans and grants that improve infrastructure, support public health and safety, or promote economic development. Under our rural business program, we have business and industry guarantee loans, and we have an intermediary lending program. Dr. King, you mentioned that earlier, and we do have some IRP lenders in the state. Forge is one, and Arkansas Capital is another one that could possibly help with that airship financing. We have a rural business development grant program, both for enterprise and opportunity. And through that program, we provide technical assistance, is pretty much what that program is used for. We have a value-added grant program that helps with producers that want to capture more consumer dollars by adding value to their agriculture commodity by packaging or advertising or doing a feasibility study to try to add value by somehow changing that agriculture product and adding value by further processing. We have a socially disadvantaged group grants. We have rural cooperative development grants to help develop cooperatives. We have Rural Energy for America program, and that is referred to as REAP, and it can be a loan and grant combination, or it can be just strictly a grant. It can be used for renewable energy or for energy efficiency projects. REAP grants require a energy audit or renewable energy for energy assistance. It falls under the Section 9005 Advanced Biofuel Payment Program, also falls under the REAP grants. And we have a program that we call Red Lake. It's rural economic development loans and rural economic development grants that a municipality organization can apply for. Here's an example of where they did some packaging and did some changing of the agriculture product in an egg facility. Energy programs that fall under the business and industry program. Like I said, we have advanced biofuel payment program, biorefinery, renewable chemical and bio-based product manufacturing assistance program, repowering assistance program, Rural Energy for America program, energy audits and renewable energy development grants, and renewable energy systems and energy efficiency improvement loans and grants. USDA Rural Development wants to be your partner in prosperity, and I'll put my information in the chat. You can also go to our website, which is www.ruralrd.usda.gov. And we're an equal opportunity lender. We are here to assist and help rural America grow and prosper. Under our rural housing, rural business, and rural utilities, each of them have different population limits. Under our rural housing, it's 35,000 population in rural nature. Under our community facility program, the population limitation is 20,000 population. Our water and waste program is 10,000 population, and our business and industry program, we go up to 50,000 population. Here is my contact information. I'll also put it in the chat. And Dr. King, if you want to take questions, or if you want to just have people refer, contact me later, I'll be glad to assist any way I can. I know we're short on time, so I'll leave it up to you on how you want to do that. And I'll stop sharing my screen. Thank you, Dr. King.
Okay, thank you, Steve. We're going to move on to the next presenter. We have Small Business Administration. Based on our time, we'll see if we can come back with any other questions the individual may have. If you have those questions, we'll put them in the chat box, and we have them pulled out and get with the presenters. Small Business Administration.
Hi, can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Great. Good to be here again today to get this information out about what SBA has done during the pandemic. Can you all see my PowerPoint?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay. So let me just start off by saying, once again, thank you, Dr. King, for having us. I always enjoy listening to the programming that USDA does, because I started my career at USDA in the 90s, primarily working on Black farmer policy and changes that needed to be made under Pearlie Reed back then. Pearlie Reed, I should say. To my USDA colleagues, I first started in AMS and FSIS, and then worked my way over to civil rights. So you guys know those acronyms. But now I'm at SBA. As mentioned, I am the director for the state of Tennessee. I have a team of 10 people, and we cover the entire state. I want to mention how we work a little bit differently than a lot of the agencies within USDA. So we don't have county offices. We typically have one office that will cover the whole state. Some states like California and Texas may have, 2, 3, 4, or 5 offices that cover certain counties. But it just so happens for the state of Tennessee and also for the state of Arkansas, there's one office. So one office, the Arkansas district for SBA covers the entire state of Arkansas, and the Tennessee district covers the entire state of Tennessee. Of course, since you guys are only 15 or 20 minutes away from Memphis, Dr. King has asked us to join since you all reach businesses and farmers and others who are in West Tennessee. So that's why we are here. I also want to just overall that as it concerns SBA, which is a little bit different than some of the USDA programs, for most of the SBA programs, except for one, really, decisions are not made locally. Decisions are typically centralized in different offices different offices that report to SBA headquarters in Washington, D.C. And usually our job here in the local offices, again, specifically the Tennessee office, the Arkansas district office, is to provide that support and guidance to those who call to try to help navigate what SBA is providing. And in some instances, see if we can get things moved along. Sometimes we're better at that than others, and it's usually based on what headquarters has given us to help you with. So I'm going to get into that a little bit with some of these pandemic programs that were instituted. because of COVID. I will also just mention also at the outset, usually when you hear of the SBA, you're talking about businesses only. Usually when you hear of the SBA, you're talking about programs and services for small businesses only, but not during COVID. During COVID, SBA's programs were opened up to large businesses, were opened up to homeowners, were opened up to landlords, were opened up to nonprofits, churches, entities that SBA traditionally either did not serve at all or served through only one particular program, which I'll mention. So let me move on to the slides, and I promise I'll be done with 15 minutes or less. So during the pandemic, there were several programs that were Congress passed and SBA deployed. I'm sure many of you heard about PPP. If you didn't hear about it, ask a friend. They've heard about PPP on the news. But this slide just gives you a quick overview at the different programs that were deployed in the middle of the pandemic. I highlighted in red the two programs that currently are ongoing. PPP, the loan program, if you didn't get that loan by now, if you didn't apply by now and get your funds by now, you probably won't get it. I will offer that there are still some individuals who applied for PPP last year and still didn't get it. Please do reach out to your local district office, whether that's Arkansas, Tennessee, or any of the other states that have local SBA offices, because we do have a mechanism where we can reach out to headquarters. Hey, this was a borrower that was approved last year, never got their PPP. But what is actively ongoing for those who got their PPP is PPP Forgiveness. As you know, with the PPP loan program, if you got a PPP, that meant that if you use the funds according to the rules and you were able to prove that you did that, then 100% of the loan could be forgiven. If not 100%, then most of it could be forgiven. So that process is still ongoing as we speak. Also highlighted in red, there's a program which really has 3 components to it that's still available, which is I'm going to talk mostly about today. So again, PPP is still ongoing. Let me just really briefly go over PPP Forgiveness. What you need to walk away from is to remember that if you got a PPP loan, forgiveness is still ongoing. If you're dealing with a lender who's saying it's not available, they're giving you a problem, you can't reach them, they've only given you partial forgiveness, you didn't get 100% forgiveness, you can't reach them, please reach out to your local district office, whether that's Tennessee or Arkansas, and we can send a note up to headquarters so that they can reach out to the leadership of those lenders to say, hey, we have a borrower here in Tennessee, we have a borrower here in Arkansas, and we really need you all to find out and help them, assist them with what happened with their PPP. But as it concerns forgiveness, there's 2 ways to get forgiveness. You can either go directly to the lender. Remember, for PPP, you didn't come directly to apply for that. They were administered through local lenders, CDFIs as well. For forgiveness, you have to do the same thing. If that lender has not opted in to what's called the SBA Direct Forgiveness Program for loans that were $150,000 or less, then you have to get forgiveness from that lender. You have to work directly with them. They will give you the guidance on how to get your forgiveness process started, concluded, and you won't have to pay that loan back. The second way for PPP forgiveness, if your lender has opted in to SBA's program called Direct Forgiveness, you will go online to SBA, or you can even might be able to do it through your lender. They can direct you as well. And you can apply directly to SBA to get that forgiveness. Again, it's only for loans that were $150,000 or less, and only where the lender is actually signed up for the program. On SBA's website, there's actually a list of lenders that actually opted into this program. Customer service phone number just for PPP forgiveness, regardless of which one, whether you have to go to the lender or you're coming directly to SBA for forgiveness, the folks at that 800 number will be able to help you. So again, that was on the PPP side, one of the programs that was launched to address COVID. The second program, which has 3 different components that I'm going to spend a little bit more time on, is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program, also known as EIDL. We call it EIDL, we call it EIDL. It's a program that had been around for many, many years, but, and I'll explain a little bit more about that later, but it was deployed nationwide. Basically, there was a decision made that COVID was a disaster. And if you didn't know, whenever there's a natural disaster, flooding, fires, hurricanes, earthquakes, wherever FEMA goes, SBA is going to go to provide that support and relief. And what happens whenever there's a natural disaster, again, like a flooding or a hurricane, or any other earthquakes or tornadoes like we experienced here in Tennessee in 2020, that is the time when SBA opens up its assistance to not just small businesses. That is when large businesses can get support from SBA. That is when nonprofits can get support from SBA. That is when landlords who have rental properties that are impacted by a natural disaster can get support from SBA. So what SBA did was during COVID, and Congress essentially did, was make basically a disaster, and then opened up this program called Economic Injury Disaster Loan that usually is only available when there's a tornado or a hurricane or flooding. So the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, you do apply directly to SBA, unlike PPP where you had to go to a bank. It does have two components. There's the loan component, and there is actually a grant component that you do not have to pay back. I highly recommend that if you have not applied for EIDL, that you do it today, no later than this weekend, because the deadline is December 31st. And I say today in jest, because I really want you to reach out to your local district office, your local SBA office to get some tips and pointers and guidance before you go on to sba.gov to submit that application. I say that in all honesty, the process sucks, and forgive my language, but the process has not been easy. The process has been really difficult. It's getting better. But the good thing is for us civil servants that are here locally in the SBA offices, every single Thursday we have a conversation with headquarters. We tell them about issues that we're getting from people who call us that can't get their EIDL loan through, that can't get their grant, and then they're giving us some solutions. Many of that is not on the website, and it's also not on those YouTube pages that have propped up during PPP that's supposedly experts on SBA. So call our office before you apply. If you have already applied and you're stuck, whether it's the loan, whether it's the grant, reach out to your local SBA office. There is a process in place where we can shoot a message over to the processors and that centralized location that are processing them and making the decisions to say, hey, this particular applicant is stuck. So qualification for EIDL. So bottom line is, for Economic Injury Disaster Loan, it's not forgivable like PPP, but the good thing is it's a 30-year term. And for for-profit businesses, it's a 3.75% fixed interest rate. As of September, for this particular loan program, you can pay off any existing commercial debt, even down to credit cards. So imagine if you have, some really high interest credit cards that you can pay off using a 30-year loan, 30-year term loan at 3.75%. I think that's a pretty good deal. Nonprofits can get the same loan, again, directly from SBA at a 2.75% interest rate for that 30 years. Once the loan is approved and you signed off on the promissory notes and you've gotten your loan, you have 24 months to even start making that very first payment. Interest does accrue, please keep that in mind, but you do have a month period of deferment before you have to start making that payment. Loans can be $1,000 and up to $25,000 that we're calling micro loans, but the maximum loan amount is $2 million as of September. $2 million per enterprise. If anybody on here applied for an EIDL loan before September and they were only able to get a maximum of $500,000, please know you can come back and say, hey, I believe I'm eligible for more than what you gave me before. I understand the limit is now at 2 million. Please reconsider me. I want a loan increase, and I'll tell you how to do that. Collateral for the smaller loans, there's no collateral that's needed. For the larger loans, if it's over $25,000, you do have to show proof of collateral. Same thing for personal guarantee. No personal guarantee is needed for what we're calling microloans, which are up to 25,000. For any that are over, for loans that are over 200,000, a personal guarantee will be needed. The other good thing about this particular loan, the EIDL, also called EIDL, is it can be used for anything that you need to keep the business going, anything that the nonprofit needs to keep the entity going. Earlier, I mentioned to you about landlords who have rental properties that have not, been getting the rent that they need to support the rent that they need because their renters couldn't pay, or maybe they didn't have any renters because the renters lost their job and they had to leave. You are able to also get a low interest loan through this EIDL loan. So payment of commercial debt, payment of any federal debt, payment of commercial debt, paying of rent, working capital, payroll, whatever the business needs or whatever the entity needs. As I mentioned, nonprofits are eligible, and this does include churches. The prime documentation needed will be your 2019 tax return and a 4506T, which I'll get into a little bit further because there have been some challenges with businesses being able to provide that. Two additional components of EIDL is this grant program. Essentially, it's money you don't have to pay back. You do have to apply for the loan to get the grant. You can apply for the loan and get approved for it and say, I don't want it, and still can get the grant. You can apply for the loan and say, hey, I want to decide. You got about 6 months to decide, and you can still get the grant. You can be declined for the loan and still get the grant. There's two grants. One's called a targeted EIDL advance. It's really a grant. The other one is called a supplemental targeted advance. It's really a grant. When you apply for the loan, you'll get an invitation to apply for the targeted advance, which is up to $10,000 for the entity. If you tried last year in 2020 to get that, and you only got $1,000 because it was limited to number of employees, or you had 3 employees and they only gave you $3,000, now you can come back and say, hey, where's the rest of my money? Can I get my remaining $10,000? Yes, you can do that. If this is your first time applying, there's still money available to get this grant, to get these grant dollars. You are going to have to show for the targeted that the business suffered a 30% loss since the pandemic started, and that the entity, it has 300 employees or fewer, and that's to get up to $10,000. On top of that, you'll get an invitation to get an additional $5,000 grant called a supplemental targeted advance. Here, you'll be asked to provide support that you've suffered greater than 50% of economic loss at the start of the pandemic, and you have 10 or fewer employees, and the address for the entity is located in what's called a low-income community. That is defined by the IRS. When you go to sba.gov, you can put the address in, and it'll tell you whether or not it qualifies as a low-income community. So again, this is still available until December 31st, and these are grants. You apply for the loan, you can decide not to go for the loan, and you'll still get an invitation to apply for these grants. So who's eligible for the economic injury disaster loan? I mentioned to you nonprofits, including churches and agricultural businesses. You'll remember during PPP, initially there was some issue as to whether farms or ag entities were eligible for PPP. Well, we kind of fixed that with EIDL recently. And actually it was only recently until September that we made it absolutely clear who can and cannot qualify for this EIDL loan, as well as those grants. So ag businesses in US can apply. Any of the following you'll see on the PowerPoint, if you have no more than 500 employees, ag enterprises, cooperatives, independent contractors, of course, for-profit businesses, so prop, whether you got individuals or not, and tribally owned businesses as well. You'll also see that there's, again, this is since September, there are a list of businesses that even if they have more than 500 employees, they are also eligible for this program, the loan and the grant. And you'll see those listed here. If a business has more than 500, which is still small, an ag cooperative, aquaculture enterprise, nursery, or producer cooperative, those can also be eligible for this loan program and the grant. I've already mentioned nonprofits and churches that are eligible for this as well. There's also a whole list of other types of entities where even if you have more than 500 employees, which typically aren't small businesses, again, I mentioned, usually SBA is in the business of small businesses. During the pandemic, it got expanded. So there's a whole list of entities where if there's more than 500 employees, you're eligible for this loan program and eligible for this grant, and you can see that on the screen here. So I've mentioned it before, and I'm going to repeat it again. The deadline is December 31st. In September, these definitions that allow some larger entities and also increase the loan program to $2 million became in effect. So now larger businesses can apply. If the money runs out before December 31st, the program will end. There's still billions of dollars available. We don't think it's going to run out, but we still want you to get your application in before December 31st. Two things I want to mention, the top 2 reasons for decline. If the entity was not in, you have to be in operation, on or before January 31 of 2020. And there's a definition of what in operation means that's in our rules. Kind of a loose definition. You basically just prove, hey, even though I didn't open the door yet, I was preparing to open the door, and you may still qualify. The other top reason why we see applicants get declined for EIDL and also for the EIDL grant is if they did not file a 2019 tax return. You've got to get your 2019 tax return filed. Yes, we know that the IRS has a backlog, but SBA is going to be relying on the tax transcript to determine how much you're eligible for this loan and whether you're eligible or not. We've seen a lot of fraud. So we have implemented a lot of changes to make sure that we're not dealing with those who just made up a business. Trust me, people have submitted false tax returns. People have submitted tax returns that they say were filed by the IRS and they're fraudulent as well. So SBA is clamping down on that. But the bottom line, know that you have to have filed already your 2019 tax return. Yes, you can go ahead and apply if you haven't filed it yet, but so you can get yourself in the queue, but make sure you quickly get it filed. Electronic filing is probably the fastest way to do it, because when SBA gets to your application, remember I said it's central processing, millions of applications are coming in. When they finally get to you, if you've already filed and they can get that transcript, it'll help things move along. I've already mentioned that the cap is now at $2 million per loan. You can prepay any business debt and deferred payments. I'm not going to spend too much time here because I know we don't have a whole lot of time, but please know that if you get declined, whether it's for an increase to the loan, for the original loan, or for that grant, there is a way to come, hey, can you reconsider me? In my office or the Arkansas District Office, and we'll walk you through that step. Another recent change is all documents now have to be uploaded. If you've been stuck in the process, you might have been stuck with constantly emailing documents to the loan processors. You don't have to do that anymore. You should be able to upload your documents and they'll be able to pull it from there. I've already gone over most of this. You'll see the minimum credit score requirements based on the loan amounts. And I've already mentioned, you can use it basically for anything that the entity needs. Again, 12/31 is the deadline. This just recently changed as of October, the chart that I'm showing you now. You got to get it in by December 31st. Processing will continue. If you need a modification, you have 2 years to get that in, but the funds could run out, so be mindful of that. If you need a reconsideration of a decline decision for a loan increase, or the grant, it will continue after December 31st, but funds could run out. The only thing that's going to stop on December 31st is that supplemental advance, the grant that's $5,000. If you have not submitted and got that money in your hand come December 31st for that $5,000 grant, you can't get it after. But for the $10,000 one, those will continue being processed after December 31st, again, as long as the funds are still remaining. So there's information on SBA's website. Just go essentially to sba.gov, EIDL. Remember, the 2 primary documents you're going to need is a file return. You're going to have to fill out a 4506T, the correct one, the one we asked you for. There's an 11-page document on SBA's website that has the FAQs for all of this. But I highly encourage you to call my office in Tennessee or call the Arkansas District Office, because we can give you some tips and pointers either before you apply or if you are currently stuck. So I'm going to skip over this real quick, but just remember I mentioned to you that SBA steps in times of natural disasters. This program has been around called EIDL in times of natural disasters, and now it's available for COVID. So here's the contact information for my office, 615-736-5881. And anybody who picks up the phone can help you navigate COVID idle. I've also put the Arkansas District Office, which is 501-324-7379. Same thing. Anybody can help you navigate this current program that's still available. If you need to find out, maybe you're not in Tennessee or Arkansas and you're trying to figure out which is my nearest SBA district office, just go to sba.gov, put your zip code in, and we'll properly direct you where to go. So I hope I didn't speak too fast. I hope I have encouraged you to please don't cancel yourself out. Don't listen to YouTube on how to apply for the EIDL loan and how to get your grant, because trust me, 95% of what they tell you is incorrect. Call our office, call my team, call the Arkansas District Office team if you have not applied, and call us before you do to get some tips and pointers. And if you happen to be stuck in the loop-de-loop maze of where the centralized processing is happening for the EIDL loan or for those grants, give us a call and we can see if we can help unravel it for you. So any questions?
Chanel, thank you very much. I know it seems like you have a lot of time when you start. When it comes to the end, you have very little time. And it seems to always be that way. That was great information from SBA, particularly on the agriculture side and the part about the grant program. I want to mention this also regarding this work session. We would go to work session 3, but we already talked about air property, so I'm not going to go into that on work session 3. That was sort of in with this work session 2 with FSA. This session for today it will go to our Facebook page and to our website. And in order to access it, you go to the website at www.ALCDC1934.com. Can we possibly put that up, Mike? Or put in the chat box, that website? We're going to put the website address in. Again, it's www.ALCDC1934.com. You can go to the website. It'll take you to our Facebook page, and we're going to get this posted. You should be able to go back, get the information, something you're not quite sure about, or what the presenters has provided today, be able to get that information, the contact information, whichever. People will have another session coming up on December the 7th. December the 2nd. And it's being hosted out of Tennessee, partners we have in Tennessee. We host it from there. You'll be able to see that on our website as well. We have it posted on our website. So certain information, questions you may have after this particular session, you can join in with us. If not in person, you can join in by Zoom, by phone on the 3rd, December 2nd. December 2nd.
With Memphis Tilt.
This will be at Memphis Tilt. Memphis Tilt is the partnering organization that will be hosting us in Tennessee, Memphis Tilt. And again, we'll have resource agency people that will be participating, one USDA, Small Business Administration, and others. So you may think about some things after this session, have some questions you write down, then have them ready for December. And again, you can check that on our website, ALCDC, lowercase 1934.com. And all those announcements will be made available there, as well as the presentation of what you've heard today. People, thank you very much. Thank you to West Memphis for hosting this. and for being a partner with us. We'll see you December the 3rd. December the 2nd. We'll see you December the 2nd. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, and thank everybody for attending. Hope we didn't inundate you with too much information.
Yeah.
If we did, we'll take the course.